The Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 5th, 2022 is called to order. Would you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, and
justice for all.
Oops. Thank you. Before our business this evening, I'd like to call two very special individuals up. I served with them on the Planning Commission, and Deb Hayes served on the Planning Commission from January 2012 to February 2020, and Jeff Hovis served from August 2014 to September 2020, and they both had leadership roles on the Planning Commission and really helped direct our vision for the Planning Commission and help prepare us for the LDC revisions, and Jeff was a big part of that. So I'd like to bring them both up at the same time and recognize their service. That's funny. Thank you. Mr. Attorney, do we have a quorum tonight?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. You'll notice we have planning commissioners here and planning commissioners on Zoom. During this meeting, a designated staff person will run the Zoom aspect of the meeting so that each commissioner may be able to focus on the meeting rather than the technology. If at any time during the meeting, a commission member gets disconnected from the meeting will briefly pause to give them time to return. All matters requiring commission action shall be presented to the Planning Commission by the planning staff and the applicant. In situations where planning staff is the applicant, there will be only one presentation. City staff will make the first presentation, the applicant will make the second presentations. Both presentations are limited to 5 minutes. To maintain an orderly meeting, all presentations shall proceed without interruption, unless the commission desires to intervene with questions or comments. The chair will open the public hearing for those physically present wishing to speak about an item. Those in favor of an item shall be heard first, followed by those opposed to an item. A 10-minute time will be allowed for public comment in favor of an item. A 10-minute time limit will be allowed for public comment in opposition. A staff member will track the 10-minute time periods. Is that Mr. Satterfield tonight? Thank you. And will raise their hand at the 5-minute mark, the 1-minute mark, and verbally call time when the time expires. The chair, in their discretion, may extend these time periods. All groups, organizations, neighborhoods, or similar associations desiring to comment are asked to appoint one spokesperson to present their concerns or point of view to the commission on each agenda item. The public has been encouraged to submit their comments in writing via a web-based form located on the City of Wilmington's website. All comments received prior to 3 p.m. today were forwarded unedited to the Planning Commission. All comments will be delivered to City Council when the item advances. All comments received will be made available to the public if requested. All votes will be roll call votes after proper motions are made and consistency statements read into the record. The chair will state the outcome of the vote and the action. Rezoning requests that receive an unfavorable recommendation from Planning Commission may be appealed by the applicant to the City of Wilmington City Council. Appeal should be in the form of a letter submitted to the city clerk within 10 days of this hearing. Appeals for all items heard tonight will be heard tentatively at the February 1st, 2022 City Council meeting. All right, Commissioners, you had the minutes in your packet. Are there any corrections, comments to the minutes from December 1st? Commissioner Bowman?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Commissioner Bowman has moved to approve the minutes from December 1st. Do we have a second? And we will do, we're just going to do a voice vote for this. All in favor of approving the minutes from December 1st?
Aye.
Aye.
Any,
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Great. The minutes for December 1st, 2021 are approved. All right, we'll move on to item number 1, which is a conditional district rezoning of property containing 1.05 acres located at 6817 Greenville Loop Road to rezone from R15 Residential District, Medium Density Multiple Dwelling Residential to MD, Medium Density Multiple Dwelling Residential District, Conditional District for 5 residential duplex buildings for a total of 10 dwelling units. And Mr. Mahoney is here to deliver our staff presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. This site is located on the west side of Greenville Loop Road and contains approximately 1.05 acres and currently contains a single dwelling residence. This map shows the general vicinity surrounding the request. These are photos of the subject property and adjacent properties, and these are photos of adjacent land uses. The site is currently zoned R15 residential and is part of the September 30th, 2000 annex area. The site's surrounded by residential zoning and land uses with R15 to the east, south and southwest, There's MD10 CD located directly to the north and west. Residential uses surround the property with the Summerwalk neighborhood immediately to the north. Shown is the site plan. The applicant's proposing to conditionally rezone this property from R15 residential to MD10 CD medium density multiple dwelling residential conditional district for a 10-unit duplex project. The proposal includes a 5 duplex structures accessed by a proposed driveway connecting to Greenville Loop Road. Each unit will consist of 3 bedrooms. Parking for each unit is located underneath each structure. There are 4 additional spaces for guest parking located throughout the site. The site's located within a neighborhood-scale infill development and Greenfield sites as multi-use place area of opportunity. The site's also located along a planned green connection, a community parkway loop road, and is adjacent to a mixed-use place and transit-oriented mixed-use center. The city's comprehensive plan supports infill development where it is appropriate and where there are no adverse impacts to the surrounding environment. The proposal includes a moderate density transition in close proximity to that mixed-use center and is consistent with the established detached, townhome, and multiple dwelling housing options in the general vicinity. The project would provide additional housing options and serves as a suitable transition between an existing mixed-use node near Oleander Drive and the surrounding residential areas along Greenville Loop Road. Staff believes that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan and that the request is reasonable and in the public interest. Staff recommends conditional approval with the conditions outlined in your case summary. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney.
Thank you.
Any questions from the commissioners for staff at this time? Thank you.
Thank you.
And the applicant is here?
I am Brian Fleer, 1001 Military Cutoff. Brian Fleer Realty, KW Commercial. Also on our team today, Josh Mahali Land Design, and Mark Hargrove with Port City Engineering. I appreciate the opportunity to present this evening. A couple things I just want to highlight as it relates to this. We carefully selected this site as it related to the comp plan and currently the new UDO that allows for infill development in specific areas, obviously. The nature of this particular property, historically, the house on this property was built in 1953. Some 70 years later almost, we see considerable new development in and around this particular 1+ acre site. Interestingly enough, around the perimeter of this, we have 23 developed residential, either single family or townhome lots. There is Mr. O'Mahony pointed out the transition. If you look to the north, there's approximately 14 units in the Summer Walk. We're proposing 10. The Buck Bailey single family is 6. So you see a reasonable transition, we feel, from north to south as it relates to the particular design configuration that we're proposing this evening. Here's a rather stark image, if you will, given the perimeter of the existing 1 acre site and what we have on Summer Walk to the south, and then again to Buck Bailey to the south continually. Some other thoughts that just in general, we did considerable neighborhood outreach. We had our community meeting, obviously, but we met with the various neighbors, particularly in the Summer Walk area and down in the Bailey Buck, I'll call it neighborhood. And we listened to 3 primary building placement as it related to particular lot configurations, and also stormwater, and also as it related to the number 1 issue was privacy. So we introduced, we're required by ordinance to provide a 15-foot buffer on the Bailey Buck side, because that's obviously MD10 to R15 if we go there. On the north side, we're also proposing to put a fence along the entire property line, or landscaping. Some of the townhome residents in this area over here would prefer landscaping versus fence. We're open to that as well. And that is on the site plan, and that would be a condition of final TRC approval. Also stormwater, as it relates, there's historic ditch lines along the property, both on the Summer Walk side and on the Bailey Buck side. We have proposed that we would clear those ditches. As you can imagine, they're quite overgrown. Our engineers, we have inlets, stormwater inlets, and the various black dots you can see on the road. We're looking at doing lateral drop inlets to those historic trench areas that would flow. And the beauty of this site, frankly, is we have infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure in Greenville Loop, so we're not required to do on-site detention. We're able to design, and Mr. Hargrove's here this evening. If you have any specific questions related to that, he'd be glad to address those. But this is intended to be designed as per city standards, et cetera, that would go to infrastructure that's already in Greenville Loop. So again, a nice component of what otherwise, in many cases, is a challenging design feature. Further, just looking at the overall, just to point out, we're required, we call it a Class B transitional buffer example. This would be on the Bailey Buck side with the fence and the plantings, and this is a part of our approval process. Interestingly enough, when Summer Walk, and I've included approved construction docks, this is our property here, just adjoining the Summer Walk property. There's a 20-foot buffer that's entirely easement on the Summerwalk side where most of the mature vegetation, if you've walked that site, exists. That will be retained. The ditch line is meanders within that area. We'll clear that out to the best that we can, and then the fence will follow the property line along this particular area. And then again, along the 20-foot road access, we'll have our drainage easements. Finally, just looking at elevation, one of the things that we want to do is mirror what in Summerwalk or the Bailey Buck community with the design that is a prevalent feature, and we would like to try to do varying roof designs throughout. So I'm showing a couple different examples. As Mr. O'Mahony mentioned, parking is underneath, so we'll be able to provide some varying designs that I think will give some interesting architectural design and variation throughout the project. The other thing that's significant about Greenville Loop, and we've done a number of projects within this corridor, and you might be aware there's the Greenville Loop multi-use trail that will be beginning construction this fall. And we are, as a part of our site plan, we have a feature that will add that component as required by the city, probably fees in lieu of, because the construction, we will probably be ahead of it. But either way, that's going to be a nice feature as it relates to a trail connectivity that will go not only on Greenville Loop, but up to Park Avenue all the way to College. So there's quite an extensive trail network that we'll enjoy here. There's also some design from NCDOT about additional left turn movements that go from Greenville Loop to Oleander, which in the future will provide a positive impact to level of service along that corridor. Those are the main points. Again, our landscape architect, Josh Mahaly, is here if you have any particular questions relative to design, and also our civil engineer, Mark Hargrove. I'd be glad to answer any questions or address any comments at this point from the commission.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Lennon?
In regards to the stormwater, it sounds like you have a system to get it off your site. Where does it go after that?
I'm sorry,
In regards to the stormwater, it sounds like you have a method to get it off your site.
we do.
Where does it go after that?
It goes into the infrastructure. There's actual piped stormwater infrastructure in Greenville Loop. So it's actually piped into that system, and then it goes into the city conveyance of stormwater down the road. Mark, you want to address that?
Yeah, there's an existing culvert system on our side of Greenville Loop Road. Like this project is it's called a drainage plan. Since we were less than an acre, we didn't have to do the full permitting. So with the drainage plan, all we got to do is collect our runoff and connect it to the adjacent system, which the city has. There's 2 drop inlets and a pipe system on our side of the road.
Okay, thank you. If I may, that's one
Of course.
My other question, I just wanted, and this may be more for staff, and I apologize, but is the trail construction really going to start this fall?
I anticipate that property acquisition will probably start in the fall. I don't know precisely how long that will take, just depending on how long that takes. Construction could start potentially later in the year, but it's tentative at this point. I don't think it's 2 years out, but I don't know that a precise date's been put on it yet. It's an estimate.
I could address that slightly. I spoke with Jason Pace, I believe it is, city engineering, who's the project manager of that particular project for Greenville Loop. And he sent me an email that designated construction in the fall. I've shared that with Mr. O'Mahony as well, for the record.
And I asked this question, but just to verify, this section of trail in front of Summerwalk's already there, right?
That is, in my understanding and looking at those documents, literally looked at them today, they're to stay as they are currently in place.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. It's time for the public hearing. And we have a time limit, 10 minutes for the item and 10 minutes in opposition of the item. And we'll let anyone here that is in favor of this item speak first. Welcome to the podium. Make sure you sign in. And before you speak, just say your name and address. Anyone to speak for this item? Okay, anyone here to speak in opposition of this item? All right, public hearing is closed. Commissioners?
Madam Secretary, Amy, just to confirm, I don't think the city received any online comments. Is that correct?
We did not receive any online comments for this item.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. What are your thoughts on this? Commissioner Lennon?
I'm prepared to make a motion for approval unless there's any other discussion. Anybody? All right. Madam Chair, on agenda item number 1, request to rezone from R15 to MD10 CD 6817 Greenville Loop Road. I move for approval, as in this request is consistent with the objectives and policies of the following plans adopted by the City of Wilmington: the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan. That's it. The Planning Commission considers its approval to be reasonable and in the public interest, because the project would provide additional housing options and serve as a suitable transition between an existing mixed-use node near Oleander Drive and the surrounding residential areas along Greenville Loop Road. Therefore, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request, including all conditions as provided in the staff summary case.
Thank you, Commissioner Lennon. Commissioner Lennon has moved to approve agenda item number 1. Do we have a second?
Have a second.
Commissioner Pollack? All right, and we will have a roll call vote. Commissioner Bowman?
Aye.
Commissioner Goins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle, aye. Commissioner Pollack?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
And Commissioner Woodruff?
Aye.
And the agenda item number 1, we've recommended approval unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to agenda item number 2. It's property containing .25 acres located at 617 South 9th Street to rezone from R5 Residential District to R3 CD Residential Conditional District for 2 residential lots. And welcome back to the podium, Mr. Mahoney.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Let's see. There we go. All right, this site is located on the east side of South 9th Street and contains approximately .25 acres and is currently vacant. This map, hit the wrong button. There we go. This map shows the general vicinity surrounding the request. And these are photos of the subject property and adjacent properties. And these are some more photos of adjacent land uses. As mentioned, the site's currently zoned R5 residential and is located within the 1945 corporate limits. The site is surrounded by residential zoning with R3 to the west and R5 to the north, south, and east. Residential uses surround the property with a vacant parcel to the south. The applicant proposes to rezone the property from R5 residential to R3 conditional district for 2 residential lots. These lots contain 2 single-family dwellings and 2 accessory dwelling units. Since the time of distribution of your case summary packets, the applicant has updated the site plan to show the accessory dwelling units to be 1-story in the rear of the properties. These are approximately 880 square feet of floor area, and this is to be compliant with the new land development code. The revised plans are shown on the slide to you here. The single dwelling units, the single-family dwellings shown on 9th Street are now shown as 1 or 1.5 stories, partial second floor on the updated plan as well. So just to recap, there were accessory dwelling units in the rear that were 2 stories. To comply with code, they have been changed to 1-story accessory dwelling units in the rear. The single dwelling on the front of the property for each property are now basically 1.5 stories. No changes other than that to the plan. And again, that's just to be code compliant with the new land development code. Accessory dwelling units can't exceed 900 square feet gross floor area. So just wanted to clarify that. These proposed lots are approximately 5,400 square feet each and are served by a shared driveway. The site is located within a neighborhood scale infill development area of opportunity on the Comprehensive Plan's Growth Strategies map. This designation promotes small lot infill development with a particular emphasis on neighborhood character. The comprehensive plan also promotes location-efficient housing to help supply Wilmington with diverse housing options that are accessible to individuals and families of all incomes, needs, and preferences. The site's also located within the plan boundary of the Southside Small Area Plan. The plan supports maintaining existing residential zoning at this location. The proposal for the subject property would allow for additional density and lot sizes in a manner that is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed rezoning would allow for compatible infill, and future residents would benefit from the proximity of existing services within the vicinity of downtown. Staff believes this proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the recommendations of the Great Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, that the request is reasonable and in the public interest. Staff recommends conditional approval with the conditions listed in the case summary. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Pollack?
Real quick question. You modified the proposal based on updated information. You said the single dwelling residence is now 1.5 story versus 2.
Correct.
Correct. And then you said the 2-story garage is now 1 story. Is that going to be a garage? Is that going to be a dwelling unit?
That is an accessory dwelling unit in the rear, 1 story.
Okay, but the use of whether it's a garage or an actual dwelling, do we care based on the different zoning that's in play here?
Yeah, based on the code, the maximum that they could have for an accessory dwelling unit or for an accessory building is 900 square feet.
Right.
Their intention, based on this proposal, is to condition themselves to an accessory dwelling unit for this proposal.
Okay, that's good for now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Sure. Commissioner Lennon.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you have this, and this might be for Ms. Wolf, but this picture right here,
I believe that is from Ms. Wolf, yes.
did anybody experiment to see if those cars could actually get out?
I don't know
I'm
if
saying
that drawing's to scale. I'll let Ms. Wolf speak
I'll
to
wait
that.
till the applicant's presentation. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mahoney.
Thank you.
And the applicant is here. Welcome, Ms. Wolf.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Cindy Wolf, and I'm here on behalf of the owner of the property. As you can see, just around this area of the community, as Pat pointed out, we have R3 zoning across the street from us. We're in R5 currently. To create this division of the 2 lots, would require that we rezone to the R3, and that's why we're here. The lots all over here are different sizes, different shapes, and so we think that this is the classic, infill in a community that is primed for the redevelopment and addition of housing in this area. Let's see. Come on. There we go. Originally, our intent was to have accessory dwellings over a garage in the back. And then we found out that if we were 2 stories in the back, we had to be 2 stories in the front. That's where it got to the point when it was at your packet. As of yesterday, then we found out that even though you can have garage apartments, you can only have garage accessory dwellings above garages if it's old development. If it's new development, the maximum size of an accessory building is now only 900 square feet, which is the entire amount of the accessory dwelling. So in a roundabout way, it has been consistently evolving to the plan we have today. So the rear buildings will both be 1 story. They will each be an accessory dwelling. That's it. The front buildings, as Pat pointed out, as of yesterday, just covering my client's options, I described as being potentially no more than 1.5 stories. The height of the front buildings has been an issue that we've talked about with different people. So I'm here right now saying that we're willing to condition all 4 buildings only be 1 story at the point where we move forward to the city council. So 1 story, 4 buildings. As far as the parking situation, each of those lots will be 33 feet deep. Certainly a car, generally speaking, the parking space is 18, so there is enough room for those cars to get further over towards the property line. The difference with this compared to a parking lot in a multifamily development or a commercial development is that residential development, you are permitted to back out onto the street if it's necessary. But frankly, with our 10-foot drive that would go down the middle and the amount of parking space beyond the 5 and 5, we've basically got 27 feet to each side of that drive aisle. So yes, we believe that cars can actually park there, can back up while they're back there and come out of the site forward. This is fairly typical with the alleys and that this type of shared driveway development all over the inner city where the 1945 limits are. So with that, what we originally proposed and put in the packet were 1-story buildings that my client has built in other areas not too far from the neighborhood. So we look for your approval this evening for the subdivision of the lot into 2 parcels so that 2 primary homes and 2 potential accessory dwellings could be built, all 1 story. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. If I understand you correctly, condition number 5 reads, the proposed uses shall be limited to 2 single-dwelling residential lots, each with a detached garage and accessory dwelling unit, and your client is willing to...
There is no detached garage any longer.
Oh, right. We'll take that out. And with a... So we take out the detached garage and...
I don't know that the conditions have say anything about height, but in fact, I am going to change the site plan so that it says 1 story.
Well, if we wanted to put it in the conditions, I wanted to make sure I understood.
That's fine if you want to add that condition.
Okay. Commissioners, anybody else have a question for the applicant? Commissioner Lennon?
I apologize. Can you walk me through the change from the 2-story to the 1-story again? I guess to cut to the chase, I'm curious how it got so far.
The change is really neither here nor there. We're here today with the request for 2 1-story primary dwellings and 2 1-story accessory dwellings to the rear of them by creating an R3 zoning district that would allow us to split the single lot into 2 lots, each with a home and an accessory dwelling.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Oh, Commissioner Pollak, yes.
You had a public outreach meeting.
Yes.
Can you give us highlights of that meeting?
There weren't a whole lot of highlights, and Ms. Robinson is here. She was there. Some of the other folks were not. But we talked about the type of development, the other projects that Mr. Dealey has done all around the neighborhood, some concerns she had for some of the other properties in the neighborhood that aren't as well taken care of. And it evolved about the 2-story, the 1.5-story, and that's why we're committing to the 1-story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing, and remember, we have 10-minute limit for the public hearing in favor of the item, and a 10-minute limit for comments in opposition. So we will start with anyone here in favor of this item, agenda item number 2. Welcome. And make sure you're signed in, and just start with your name and address.
I'm Celeste Salzberg, and my address is 615 South 9th, next door.
Yeah, a little closer to the mic.
615 South 9th, next door. And having a vacant lot there has been dangerous. Random people just walk through it. And being a woman with a 17-year-old daughter, I'm very happy about 1-story houses being there. That's it.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of item number 2? Come on.
Hi, my name's Brian Saunders. I live at 705 South 6th Street, about 2 blocks away. I'm in favor of this proposal. This will fit within the neighborhood. There's the lots there are generally about 33 feet wide, so nothing, no drastic changes, and plus it will provide some affordable housing for people. Everybody's talking about the need for affordable housing. So this will, these smaller, single-story units will provide that and help alleviate the shortage.
Thank you, Mr.
That's it.
Saunders.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this item? All right. Anyone here to speak against agenda item number 2? Come on up.
My name is Yvette Robinson, and I live at 901 Queen Street, the house right there behind all this. I think it's a good idea to put houses there, but I think 4 houses is a little much. If he can do 1 house and 1 apartment, I think that would be sufficient for the neighborhood, because it's crowded around there already, and there's going to be a lot of traffic, and I can't see that street between those 4 houses working too well. That's it.
Thank you for coming out. Anyone else here to speak against? Come on up.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Debra Nixon. I live across the street at 817 Queen. Ms. Robinson and I share similar concerns about the capacity or the quantity of housing there. Well, certainly we would appreciate housing, a house and an apartment in that particular place. That would be good. I don't really think, I can't really visualize it being 4 dwellings, and a space big enough for the cars to get down and out safely or comfortably up in that area. It just doesn't look like it's that big. Also, I would like to know, what is an accessory apartment? What does that mean?
For the definition, it just means it's not the primary, it's a second residence on the property. It has to be smaller, and there are restrictions around it.
Okay. And then where's the well? There was a well on that property, so what happened to the well?
We can ask the applicant to come back up and address that.
It looks like from this diagram, it looks like if that green circle is the well, that is probably, it used to be a well for the community, from my understanding. It was a community well years ago. That's what our ancestors, our older people had let us know about.
Okay.
So also, when it rains, it's a tendency for, on the side where I am, it's a tendency from time to time for the sewer to fill up, and it's like a little pool there. So I'm concerned about this increase of people. Would this increase of people, of course, add to our drainage problem? I have that concern as well. And then finally, I would like to know what is considered this affordable housing, and what kind of people are we bringing into our sanctuary, our living environment. And I know that people need housing, and I heard a couple of times something about, or if not exactly close to affordable housing. So we're homeowners. I'm a homeowner, she's a homeowner. The people on my side are homeowners. And so I'm concerned about if this property will be sold to homeowners, or is this going to be like a revolving door for we don't really know what, to compromise our sanctuary and our peace, our safety. We have some issues as it is already. We don't really want to multiply those issues with, I don't know what affordable or housing means. I have concerns about that. So I appreciate you guys letting me speak. I appreciate having the opportunity to put input in regarding where we live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please consider. Thank you.
Are there any other, anyone else here to speak in opposition? Come on up.
Good evening, all. I am
Can you move the microphone down a little bit so we can hear you a little better?
Oh, good
there you go.
evening, all.
Thank you.
I am a resident on 809 Queen Street, and I am in opposition of taking the site and splitting it up and putting such an enormous amount of people in that one area. It is a residential area, but now you've got apartments in the back, and the houses in the front are fine. I mean, for residents, but then you've got that narrow space for traffic in and out of that particular area. And you have, quietness. So, I mean, to me, that's just too much in that spot, in the residential area. A lot of, I'm not knocking the prosperity for that lot, but that's a lot of house and a lot of people, and not enough in and out space for all the people that will be living there. So that's my concern about it. And then I had an issue about a infill. That word was used, I'm not sure what that is. And then I had a issue or concern about, they said 1-story, 2-story, what is it? You know, it's not, I don't understand it. I don't really have the clarification for the structure. You know, you can say the back is one thing, but is it an apartment or, you know, house, or it's just a little confusing to me. So I'm not for it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get some of those issues cleared up. Anyone else here to speak in opposition of this item? Okay, after the public hearing, you mean? Okay. Okay, anyone else here to speak at the public hearing for or against this item? All right, close the public hearing, and we'll invite the applicant back up to address some of the comments. And just as a matter of public education, it's outside of the scope of our consideration to discuss, you know, whether it's going to be rented or sold. So that's not really part of our decision making, but you're certainly welcome to address any of the comments you heard.
Okay. These 4 buildings will make over 100 that Peggy, my wife, and I have done in Wilmington. We're low-key. We've lived in Michigan, New York. We always wanted to move here. We moved here about 15 years ago full-time. Part of our business moved here in '93. We're now what I would call not retired. We continue to redo houses. We continue to move houses. We continue to provide housing in the area. In 1994, we bought several buildings on the 600 block of Castle Street. If any of you were familiar with Castle Street, there were 3 things there: empty buildings, drugs, and prostitutes. There are no drugs there. There is no prostitution unless they're hiding somewhere there. We redid 22 buildings on and around Castle Street. We have saved homes that came from Carr Avenue where they were going to be ruined and torn down, and moved those to 7th Street right there in that area. Made nice houses out of them. They both sold at an unbelievable price before we had the foundation done. We're also building a small community of 4 tiny houses in an alley behind 7th Street that are elevated on pilings just like they do at the beach. The reason we do that is we rent to... Okay.
So sorry about that for the delay. Go ahead.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. We did that because that's what we like to do. We like to take junk and make it new. We restore old cars too, but that's a secondary thing. The houses there, we rent usually to young professionals, for some reason, usually women. And the reason we put these 4 houses on pilings like they are at the beach is so that a woman can drive in, go under the house where the pilings are, jump right to the stairs, and be inside in 10 seconds. It'll be fenced, there'll be lighting. That's what we do. Through all of our houses that we have built in Wilmington over the last 45 years, they're all...
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you put the microphone up?
Oh, yeah. Is that better? Better?
Yes, thank you.
In all of the houses, they're all what I would say 8s or 9s out of 10. We only build quality houses. A lot of our 1,800, 2,000 square foot houses rent for over $2,500, and we're always full. The way we manage our business is we currently have 6 houses in progress. 2 of them that we moved from the Carr Street, I get that confused, the Carr Street area, because they were going to be demolished. We're looking at 2 more that are going to be demolished that we will go to the expense of having them moved and put them on lots we prefer in that general area. We used to have a whole bunch of college housing. We got rid of that. And no, it's not a bigger problem as you think it is. We have a senior crew chief who's a native of Burgaw, who would scare you a lot if you saw him, but he's a pussycat. He visits every property we own monthly. Every property. To check for any damage, to check for anything's going on that shouldn't be going on. And he even negotiates, because you know sometimes tenants like to do things they shouldn't, like paint a wall black. He even negotiates that before they do it. So he said, okay, but if you're going to paint that wall black, it's going to cost us $600 to get it back white. So you have to pay that before you paint it. So we monitor them real good. I think you'll find we have a very good record. Regarding this particular location, this location is so grown up. You could build 6-foot houses, buildings in the place, and nobody would know they're there. It's terrible. Someone mowed the front part of it a few weeks ago. I have no idea who. But the weeds and junk are 5, 6, 7 feet high. Behind this house, one of these ladies that just talked told us that there's lots of needles and things there. Because behind this lot, let's say there's a house where a lot of adult men hang out all day long and they don't look like they just had breakfast. On the street, Queen Street there, you'll see any time of day, 5, 10, 15, 20.
Time's up.
Okay, people there. With this, may I finish the sentence? Yeah. With this built, with homes there and people there, just like they did downtown when we did Castle Street, they'll move somewhere else. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Commissioners? Comments, questions for the applicant? Commissioner Pollack?
Yeah, just would like to hear just some answer from the applicant relative to the individuals talked about, you know, there was a well there, they talked about drainage, okay, they talked about, you know, sewer backing up, if I understood the complaint. So you're going
This
to...
area for quite a long time now has
Okay.
been on public utilities. There is sewer and water by the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. If there is a well there, it certainly will be abandoned formally. That will be a requirement of the health department. We haven't gotten in there and done that type of detailed investigation yet. Certainly the empirical, you know, information from the neighborhood's important, and so we're on the lookout for that. We do know apparently that Ms. Robinson's water and sewer meters are actually in front of our driveway, but that doesn't matter. We'll still have to put in a new service. There's one service for water and sewer to the lot as it stands. If this is successful, we'll have to install another one. So things like that, it's public utilities, so that isn't an issue, but it certainly will be something that will have to be handled.
Thank you. And I know there was a question about the height, so I just wanted to get
Height's a
that
one-story,
again too.
no
That we will put that in the conditions when it's timed, that each building will be 1 story. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, and the only other thing that came up that might be a question that needs to be addressed is probably a little more public education than specially to this, specific to this application, but the affordable housing that was mentioned was part of a comment that was for the item, and that certainly might be a naturally occurring affordable housing situation. The affordable housing itself is kind of a broad term. It doesn't really have meaning until you say who it's affordable for. So affordable housing just means it's 30% of your gross income. So if we were to identify, for example, this property is going to be affordable to people making $40,000 a year, then we'd put a number on it and it would be in the application packet and they would be tied to that. But there's nothing like that in this packet. So it's going to be market rate rentals. So that's, and if you wanted to add to that, that's certainly
No,
fine,
that's
but-
absolutely correct. I mean, we intend for it to be market rate. However, based upon the neighborhood, and the important thing about affordability in this day and age has to do with density. It can certainly be more affordable when a project has a little bit more density. And so that's why we are interested in cutting it into 2 lots and providing for those accessory dwellings.
Thank you. And the accessory dwellings, we're excited to see that coming through after all the work we did on the new LDC, and looking forward to projects that included that, because it's going to go a long way to our broad
It's an
affordable
easy
housing
way to
goals.
add housing as
So-
infill.
Who else? Commissioner Sharp.
I wondered if I can understand that what you're requesting is this 1 lot to be zoned R3, and
That-
it is surrounded on all sides, except across the street, as R5.
That's correct. But there are other R3 lots. It is, the zoning district is R5 right now, yes. But as far as the character of the neighborhood and the way other lots are shaped, sized, it is not inconsistent with the R3 that's across the street.
But it is like a protrusion into a block of all R5.
As a residential district, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lennon?
And forgive me, I'm looking at the same thing you are. So I guess I'm going to say north on top of,
I'm sorry?
to the north of the site, or on top of the site, there's 2 lots there?
Yes,
Okay. Are those 2 separate houses?
yes, they are.
Okay.
One of the lots is about 25 feet wide. The other one is, it appears like probably the 40-foot, because it was the 33 plus whatever is not there on that lot. If you look to the northeast of the yellow box, those are 2 33-foot lots.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great observation. I think the point is that even though there's R5 surrounding, there's an R3
The character
sized
is
land use
typical.
pattern that is common in that area. Commissioner Bowman, you had your hand up earlier.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Did we close the public hearing? Are we
Yes.
deliberating? Okay, good, thank you. Well, I agree with your last statement. Clearly, this looks like it is more of a closer to an R3 pattern. You know, the lot at its existing size, if I look at the sort of 9-block area on the tax map, it's probably only 10% of the lots in this whole area that are of that size. Whereas if they're 33-foot wide, which is the old city standard, it would fall right into the median. So I have seen some small lots or subdivided lots out of character in the total area, but I do not feel like this is the case. So I'm prepared to make a motion if you're ready. Or if you, unless you want to wait and call for the vote later.
Unless anybody else has a question, what is the will? Oh, sure, Commissioner Lennon.
This is more just a comment. One of the speakers used a word that I thought was really good, which was sanctuary. And I think that's the balance. Several meetings ago, I talked about this. The whole idea behind the LDC is to provide affordable places for people to rent or buy. And whichever one they do is irrelevant. It's the fact that people like our kids can stay here and afford a place to rent or a place to buy. The challenge is, the only way to do that, as Ms. Wolf indicated, is to infill, take vacant home sites in existing neighborhoods and improve them. So that's the intent. Sometimes it doesn't always work the way people around it want it to, but the whole idea behind the Land Development Code is to provide more opportunities for the citizens of Wilmington, because people need places to live. That's it.
Thank you, well stated. All righty, what is the will of the commission? Commissioner Bowman?
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I move to approve agenda item number 2, case number CD 16122 for 617 South 9th Street to rezone from R5 to R3 CD. And that this request is consistent with the objectives and policy of the following plans adopted by the City of Wilmington: create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, Southside Small Area Plan, and the Planning Commission considers its approval to be reasonable and in public interest, as the proposal allows for additional housing that is consistent with the development pattern of the surrounding area and continues the compact development pattern of the neighborhood. Therefore, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request, including all conditions as provided in the staff summary, but for one modification. Ms. Bradshaw, if you'll make note, I'd like to change condition number 5 on page 7 to read, the proposed uses shall be limited to 2 single-dwelling residential lots, each with a single-story primary residence and single-story accessory dwelling unit.
Commissioner Bowman has moved to approve agenda item number 2 with the modified condition number 5. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Pollack with the second. And we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bowman?
Aye.
Commissioner Goins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle? Aye. Commissioner Pollack?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
And Commissioner Woodruff?
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who came out. All right, and we have one last agenda item to cover. Mr. Chambers is here to present the request for withdrawal of agenda item 3.
Yeah, as staff informed the commissioner earlier, this applicant has requested withdrawal of this item, and I agreed to make that request on their behalf so they wouldn't have to come out this evening.
Thank you for that. And we just need to acknowledge that and put it in the minutes, right? That's not a vote. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's fine.
Great. Well, we have acknowledged that agenda item number 3 has been withdrawn. So any other items from the commission? All right. Staff?
Staff would like to share some of the changes we've been making for public notice. One of those is we've replaced the signs. I believe we've probably mentioned this before, but we wanted to give a visual to the commission as well as the public viewing on the screen as to what the new signs will look like. They're bright and they are big, and they will soon, we've been using them for the past couple of months, so just want to make sure that the commission and those folks viewing at home knew what these new signs look like, because we've been using the old signs for quite some time, so that there is a bit of change with what you're going to see out on the roadside, out in the public.
That's great. Very eye-catching.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
And I can provide an update from City Council last night. We had 4 items that went forward last night. The multi-story mini warehousing on 4706 Wilshire was approved. The Masonboro Loop Road 16-unit townhome development south of Andrews Reach was also approved. The street closure for Washington Street within the Starway project was also approved. And the third item, it's escaping me right now.
Market Street?
Yes.
Ken Shanklin's old office?
Yes, I'm so sorry. 214 Market Street. Ken Shanklin's law office was rezoned to CBD HDO for the new restaurant and outdoor dining location. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Anything else? All righty. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
The motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. We'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. See you next month.